All right, our next speaker, we're just a couple minutes after 1 o'clock here, is here all the way from Wichita, Kansas, to share her expertise in applied artificial intelligence with you. She serves as general manager of Pellet Technologies USA. Ellie Antova leads strategic direction, operational execution, and global feed initiatives for Pellet Technologies USA, with over 2 decades of experience spanning biofuels, aerospace, and international business development. She oversees all aspects of PTUSA's operations, from commodity purchasing and production to governance and regulatory compliance. She holds a bachelor's degree in marketing from Newman University and dual master's degrees in business administration and international economics from Wichita State University. Ellie also completed a biofuels technology and sustainability certification and actively contributes to several trade and academic advisory boards. Welcome, Ellie Antova.
Thank you so much for the introduction and the invitation. I feel I'm in a tough spot having to compete after lunch with the coffee consumption, so hopefully I'll do well. And I thought it would be kind of fun to maybe ask AI, what are some good tips to keep the energy up after lunch? And the AI model said, reduce the oxygen in the room. I'm not sure we can trust that model, so maybe I'll share my own thoughts on what we can do. So anyways, I'm here to share some of our experience on our AI journey that we've been on, and maybe share some of the challenges, and maybe some of the learnings, maybe share a different perspective, and hopefully we can have some nice discussion after this. Let's see if I can make this technology work. There we are. It doesn't take 10 years to get 10 years of innovation. So when we started on this journey 3 years ago, and if somebody asked me about AI, one, I think our definitions of AI and expectations were completely different. We are a small, medium-sized manufacturer. We had all the thoughts of like, we don't have the experts, we don't have the capital, we're too small. Where do you even start? I'm sure some of you have thought all this and maybe have those questions today. So for us, it was, if somebody would have told me that we will be on this journey and I'll be standing here 3 years later, probably wouldn't have believed you. But I think that the takeaway here is don't wait, jump in. Start somewhere, and I'll share some of the thoughts or the approach that we did at Pellet Technology. So let me tell you a little bit about who we are. Pellet Technology is an animal feed manufacturing facility. We're actually located in York, Nebraska. So what we do is we take distillers' grains. Distillers' grains are a co-product from the ethanol plants that is used primarily in cattle feed. So we take this distillers' grains, we pelletize it, we extrude it, and we also make actually pressed stubs. And these products are distributed through the cattle industry. Obviously, Wisconsin is a dairy state, but we operate in the beef space. So our customers are the mama cows, the baby calves that are on the ranches. If some of you have watched Yellowstone, that's our customer. So our product goes all the way from Montana, North Dakota, all the way through the Great Plains down to the Gulf. So our customer base is spread out pretty much through the Midwest and usually follows where the feedstock is, which is the ethanol plants. So when we started on our AI journey, and as a company, we're 40 employees, 30 million of revenue. So in the grand scheme of things, not a big player. And I think I heard Nick earlier say, well, we don't have an IT expert, or we don't have a team that's dedicated. Similar story for us. So when we were trying to figure out where do we start, having a manufacturing facility and extrusion was like, we're not even sure that's something that's feasible for us. And again, hopefully without offending someone, we're a bunch of rednecks and cowboys in a room trying to make feed to get the cattle. We're not technology gurus or AI experts. But anyways, knowing that there's people like us that can do it, I want to share some of that. And knowing that we have 3 production processes, which adds complexity to when you install a new technology. Everybody knows, not one size fits all. It works for this one perfect, but it's not perfect for this one. So how do we do all of this combined when we do a new technology? We're a 24/7 operation, so we have different shifts, we have different crews, we have, like I said, multiple products. So obviously, I guess maybe compared to some of you here in the room, just a typical manufacturing facility. So when we started this part, even though we had some challenges, one of the things that we were pretty fortunate was to have higher demand for sales than for actually production can keep up, which is a good problem to have. So there's nothing more frustrating to have customers or people that want your product and you can't make it and your production line is down because you didn't have the right spare part or you didn't plan for this or something happened. So when we set our journey, one of the things that we definitely got right was setting the right objective and narrowing it down to increasing our uptime, reducing the waste, and using data to make decisions so we can serve our customer better, so we can have more product. So one of the things that I want to emphasize is, and I think I heard it from several of the speakers earlier, make sure you narrow down your objective. Make sure you're clear. And you don't have to take everything. There's so many different things that you can tackle, whether it's inventory management, whether it's administration tasks. Narrow it down. And we felt that if we do that and improve our operational efficiency, that would give us a competitive edge. Just like everybody else, we have pressures to compete with the competition. The feed world is a low margin world, so the more you can save on your maintenance costs, the more you can produce, the better you're off. So for us, the objective was that we need to reduce waste so we can stay competitive, so we can differentiate from our competitors, and we can serve the customer. And how can we use the data we have to help us get there? So when we defined objective, we started to look at our approach. And building something, we knew it would take a long time, it would take capital, it would take resources. Hiring talent, managing talent wasn't something that we knew we could bite off. Buying a solution off the shelf, just like a lot of people have said, everybody has a custom, unique approach to things, and in the feed world, we thought we wouldn't be able either to find something that's off the shelf that fit the 3 different processes we have, the nature of what we did. So for us, obviously the clear choice was finding a partner that can help us, one, to identify what we needed, to help us with the speed, to help us with the best bang for our buck. It provided guidance. And I'll give shout out to my partner Golgix. They're up front here. I don't know the booth number. I'm not prepared. Somebody help me. But they were the partner that we selected, and they helped us on this journey and guided us as we tried to navigate what I call the wild, wide west of technology. So I'm like, where do we even begin? So it wasn't all, I think I've shared with some people in the audience, it wasn't all roses. We had challenges along the way. And one of the first one was resetting expectations of what AI is. It is not the crystal ball that tells you everything. It doesn't solve all your problems. I thought it would. So I was one of those naive poor souls that say, oh, we'll figure this out. We'll put this in. And here we go. Solved all the problems. It's not. It doesn't. I guess for us, it was maybe it's the newness of it and the implementation in the manufacturing world. For me, was like, this is the expectation I had, but Golgix had to rein me in a little bit and help me readjust my expectations, educate me, support me, and guide me, or Pellet Technology, as we continued on our journey. So what is AI? It's, supporting our team with human-like intelligence, having the capability. It is a tool that our team uses to help us improve our performance. It helps us tell us what to do, make recommendations, but we still have to use our expertise and use our experience and our people to solve some of the problems. It does help us. It gives us speed, it gives us accuracy, it gives us confidence in our decisions. But at the end of the day, we still have to make some of these decisions and help teach them the model of what to do and how to help us. So one of the challenges or key takeaways for you guys is make sure that across the organization, you're aligned on what the AI expectations are. And for us, that was very telling when we started and what we thought it was, and here we are 3 years later and what we are on our journey. Another challenge was very humbling: data. What I thought of the data we had and what the reality of that was were two completely different things. Very humbling taking a look at the mirror, because I was like, oh yeah, we got data, we got PLCs, we got DCS, we got this, we got everything. But then starting to look at the quality of the data, starting to look at what parts do we need. Do we need to implement new automations? Do we need to digitalize? Just like everybody else, we still have people that did things on paper. And having the availability and the quality of the data was very important. And then building that foundation before we can start utilizing that data. So one of the things also I want to highlight here is it could be very overwhelming, because you're looking at upgrading software like servers or historians. And I know from a leadership perspective, when those projects came up for budgeting time, you always kind of push them to the bottom and like, we'll upgrade a server next year because the return on investment wasn't there. It wasn't going to get you more sales. It wasn't going to get you anything. So you're like, we can do it another year. So pretty soon you find yourself with some outdated, equipment or network or data sets and different things. And again, I'm not the technical expert, but I know enough to know that, hey, what I thought we had versus what we needed wasn't there. But it could be overwhelming to upgrade everything. So we decided to narrow down, find a use case that would move the needle for the business and focus on that little part, and focused on upgrading and making changes to that little part. So you don't have to wait to fix all the data. Start small, pick something that will be meaningful to your business, and then work on that, and along the way, bring the rest of the data. So that was one of the challenges that we had. Again, when I think about what I thought for data we had and what really turned out in reality are two different things. So I'm sure many of you can relate probably to this. And let's see. Challenge number 3, people, culture. I'm sure many of you are not surprised, and I think there were some discussions. This by far was probably one of the toughest, and it took the longest, and it was something that didn't happen overnight. Obviously, as a leadership team, we decided to move this journey, but we knew we couldn't do it without adopting and changing the culture of the frontline operators. Obviously, as I mentioned, we are 24/7. People were scared. People were overwhelmed from the data. People were not sure what to think. I'm sure some of them had thoughts, would this replace me? Would this take my job? How do I do this? Some were afraid that because they didn't want to look dumb. Some of them, there was a lot of different aspects of implementing this. But from a leadership perspective, it was critical for us to spend that time and earn their trust. We look for opportunities to get small wins, to show them that they can improve their, help them do their job better, which over time build trust. Change the way they approached solving problems using the data rather than fearing the data. For example, everybody's had an operator that would log something by hand and put the number. Now we're saying, hey, take this number and log it in an iPad. Or we put some automation in some places to capture that data. But look at the number. What does that mean? Do you need to increase the temperature? Do you need to reduce the RPM? Do you need to change this? use the data rather than just blindly put a number or look at a number. And I think that's where Golgix came in and helped us out, because they could translate this data, all these variables, to make recommendations of what they can expect. Hey, check the die on process line number 3, because we're seeing that your torque and RPM are at this variable, and historically that has shown to reduce your production. Hey, check the chiller temperature. It's below what you normally are. Look at that. So those are the things that they were able to do, and over time people they understood the speed. They didn't have to take hours to identify where the root cause, what root cause was. They didn't have to struggle and call 10 different people or run 2 days of analysis to figure out where the issue was. So again, people and driving the people to adopt the data and driving the adoption of this new technology was definitely a challenge. It didn't happen overnight. I will obviously even share, sometimes we've had a couple instances where as a leadership team we had to be stern. It was, here are the expectations, we're gonna go down this path and we're gonna adopt this. Obviously you wanna have buy-in, but sometimes as a leadership team you've gotta push this a little bit and hold the line, and eventually you can reap the rewards. And I think I was talking to one of the colleagues here sitting at the table, and he referred to the J curve, and I was like, that's a perfect example. You know, it starts off and then it drops off because people are, you know, they want to fight. Nobody likes change. But then eventually you start reaping the rewards. But building trust and driving adoption, using some quick fixes to show the success, it helped us overcome that. And I think it's still a journey because we're continuing to work through this. So for us, it's not the end, I guess, per se. It's just part of it. But I think it's very, very critical to make sure that you take the time and spend that with the team and explain, be transparent with the organization to share why you're doing it and what the expectations are. So that was one of the challenges that we kind of encountered along the way. So obviously the real journey for us was the data foundation, you know, for us was setting that base for us. I mentioned we're 3 years into it, so we took almost a year to figure out our data. It might sound like a long time, but when you start diving into some of these things, and I think I've heard along here that, hey, some people quit, or they had failed implementations, or they gave up because it wasn't the right thing. And it can be overwhelming, but like I mentioned, focus on something that definitely can move the needle for your business, set the data foundation, develop the culture of the team, and then empower the team to unleash to what they can do as a team. So, some of the key learnings I want to share, maybe 2 of them, starting with expect an expectations gap. I think the exceptions are probably more the norm than the exception. So that was one thing. It's uncharted territory. Have that mindset, be flexible, be open. So for us, I think one thing I would share is don't be afraid that things are going to be different. And adoption first mindset. If people use it, it will work. If people don't use it, it won't work. And taking the time to develop the culture is as critical as having the right data and the right quality of data and availability of data. So for us, the 2 big things were, you know, make sure you're flexible and open-minded. And like I said, the culture is, maybe I'm repeating myself several times, but this is how important it is to the success of your implementation. So what does AI look for us today? We have our day-to-day operation. We have a production manufacturing report that tells us what our production is. It tells us the different teams. It tells us, we started off initially just with production, and over time we built different. Every iteration will add something. Then we'll say, okay, here's the total production per day. Here's the hours. Then we're like, well, why does night shift is worse than day shift? What does night shift do? So then we can look at the parameters of the operations, identify that, hey, they needed some additional training. After training the night shift, they were able to keep up with day shift. Then we went to different crew teams, team A, B, and C, and D. And normally and culturally, that can be very challenging because people don't want to be exposed. People feel that you're threatening them because you're saying, well, Joe is better than Nick, so. And I get a lot of times I get asked, do you reward for a certain performance of certain teams? But that's one motivational way. But it can also sabotage a lot of different things. So you have to be very careful with that. But if you build that trust with the team, then they don't look at that that way. They embrace it. They ask each other for help. And they all celebrate the wins when they're there. So for us, at the bottom, we also have actionable recommendations that says, hey, based on your performance yesterday, you should look at this or you should look at that. So they appreciate that. And from a leadership perspective, for me, it's very nice that I can log into my email or on my phone, and I can look and talk to the production manager and say, hey, why are we, what's going on here? What else do you need help with? Where in the past, I'm not gonna lie, we would change dies and somebody would be like, well, this looks like this to me and this looks like that, and my gut feel tells me this. Well, now we have data. We don't have to say, I feel it was this, or I thought it was lower, I thought it was higher, or whatever the parameter that you're looking at. Now we have it at our fingertips day to day. So for us, I guess when you say, why does it matter? Because it helps us improve our performance. And for example, all AI journeys are for everybody, and I put align expectations, target the users, business problems, I've said that already, and find the right partner. I probably can't highlight enough that also is important. As a small business, we're focused on feeding animals, and nutrition is in our head, and moving feed across different ranges and pinpointing bins and getting GPS coordinates and getting trucks. We don't think manufacturing or AI, and that's where Golgix comes in for us. They are the experts that we rely on. They guide us, and they're the right partner. They walked us through our learning curve. And I'd also like to say we helped them as well. We were one of their first adopters. They learned along the way with us, so it was a great partnership. We changed scope, I don't know how many times, scope creep. Probably are experts at scope creep. Hey, can you fix this now? Hey, can you look at this now? Hey, can you look at this? And that is also kind of going back. You always have to come back to the objective, because it's very easy to go try to fix everything and anything that is. And one of the things that I think we stumbled along the way that was very helpful for us was inventory management, raw material optimization. We didn't set out to improve those things. We just wanted to increase production uptime. But along the way, having the data, we actually reap more benefits from the improvement of inventory management, from optimizing our incoming materials. And of course, yes, it improved our uptime, but there was other benefits along the way. So of course, then we're like little kids, hey, do this, hey, do that, how can we implement this? But obviously, you gotta do it step by step, be diligent in your approach, make sure that it is meaningful to the business, because it's very easy, and I think I heard sometimes that people can kind of focus on the wrong things for the business, and therefore the implementation is not successful. So make sure that you're aware and kind of bring yourself back to where you started and what was the purpose of it in order to make sure you're successful. And prioritize adoption. Again, going back to culture and people, it takes time, but if you continue to work at it and drive that diligence, you'll be successful. I think there's one slide that I think I wanted to stop right here, is because I think it is important to highlight that we actually see an improvement to our bottom line because of doing this. Like I mentioned, inventory management, material optimization, shift performance, like I talked about some of the different shifts and training them, because it was more comfortable for the night shift to set the RPM at this level, that level, and let it run, instead of optimizing the machine where it can perform. But after training and getting them more comfortable, we could have more throughput. Well, now we have bigger problems. Now production is outpacing sales. Now we need more storage. Now we need another problem to solve. But the point is, we're continuing to grow, we're continuing to learn, and the evolution of that. But at the end of the day, from an equipment perspective, preventative maintenance, understanding that it's time for us to change things or look at things has been very helpful. So, again, AI journeys for everybody. Like I said, we're a small, mid-sized business in central Nebraska in the middle of the cornfields, and we work with cattle. But if we can do it, anybody can, and start today. Don't wait. It's not, like I said, I know that there will be challenges, there will be exceptions, there will be different things, but if we can do it, I'm sure anybody can do it in this room. So, I think that's it for me. I'd love to answer questions. I think actually that's my favorite part, more so than the actual presentation, but I'll be more than happy to answer any of your questions, I guess.
Absolutely, and I would tell you, if the questions are going to be even better and the answers are going to be better than the presentation, they're going to be really good, because that presentation was outstanding, Ellie. So who's got great questions for Ellie here this afternoon?
Or no questions.
Oh,
Somebody can use AI.
Right back here.
So you said you are in the cornfields in the middle of Nebraska, so how will you get analysts to use AI? Like, it's a huge step forward for a really small organization.
It is, and I think if somebody, like I said, when we even talked about it, we just joked about it and say, hey, I know that's, it was something so out there that we wouldn't even be able to do it. But we also knew we had to do something different because we were small, and we knew we didn't have the capacity to go be like some of these big manufacturers and bring these things to help us solve our problems. So for us, the key was like going back to finding a partner that can help us solve that. And AI was one way for us to do that, because I'm like, how do we become more efficient? If the benchmark in manufacturing is 85% efficiency and I'm at 70%, what can I do? How can I predict what's going to happen? How can I get better at telling myself that, something's, or the team understands what to do? And that's kind of how we embarked on AI, and we were fortunate enough to be introduced to Golgix, and I think probably it's the stars aligned because they were also starting up and they were looking for someone, so I was like, okay, well, maybe we can hold hands and try this journey together, because some of it might have been, and I guess maybe credit to them, they gave us the comfort that we can customize, because that was always my concern. It wasn't so much the AI, but can you find something that can fit what you're doing, because we were doing something so unique. And it's like some of these off the shelf, it's like, okay, great, I'll get this, but does it really help me? Does it really move the needle? And I think what attracted us was that they were open to working with us and customizing to what we needed. And it was still affordable for a business like ours. And we did it on a trial basis at first. We're like, okay, let's see what we can do. And then obviously, like I said, we learned a lot about our data, because I thought we had more data or better quality data. So that took some time. Then we started learning. I'm like, okay, what about if we implement these other variables? Because we also learned a few things along the way. We had different market dynamics, so we continued to evolve. And I think that's the key. It's not static. It doesn't stay the same. You continue to evolve. So yeah, it was a leap of faith, no doubt, but it paid off for us. So.
Michael.
You mentioned in the beginning that there were some naysayers, some people who didn't want to be involved, and you had to give them some training. Have you found over your evolution that those naysayers, if they stayed, are actually now active contributors to trying to figure out what more you can do with AI and the data, or are they waiting for leadership still to kind of direct that shift?
What we found out is that their coworkers, the peer pressure was much forcing them to change and adopt, and I think over time when they seen that their peers accepted it and they were doing it, it was okay, those naysayers came along. And yeah, in some instances you always find out one that, sat, I think somebody used the example hiding under the table or being in the corner, and that yet today they're your biggest cheerleader and the biggest contributor, because removing this fear or overwhelmness of what that is. But I think a lot of it came down from leadership down to the production manager, down to the supervisor, down to the team lead, down to the operator itself, and then the peer pressure when they see everybody else is using it and it's okay, they kind of came along. So to me, I feel like more so the coworkers impacted them rather than leadership, but leadership had to start somewhere and get the supervisors on board. And spend the time to explain why we're doing it and be transparent of why we have to do it.
But now it sounds like that then the communication has become two-way, that your team is actually contributing to the use of AI.
Absolutely. And they, after the fact, they would come up and, like I said, they'll be like, hey, can we do this here? Can we do that there? And that's where it becomes challenging at points of times, because obviously you can't do everything. But at the same time, you don't want to discourage them either. So that's where you figure out how to prioritize and how do you pick the things that move the business, but at the same time make their life easier and maybe even understand, because then they would bring things to your attention that you didn't even know existed, or challenges you didn't even know they had. So I guess going back to that culture point, that is what drives the success of AI. It's the people, the frontline workers. I mean, for me, obviously, yes, from a leadership or resource availability or capital or that, for sure. But when it comes to day-to-day, that's who drives this. And they benefit from it the most, obviously, they feel empowered. They have the access to make the best decision fast. They don't have to spend time. They know where to go look for, what to look for. And of course, it's just like anything else, yeah, it's sometimes you run into issues, and again, expect the unexpected.
Other questions for Ellie? Yes, sir.
So you mentioned objective and scope. Do you anticipate that that those are going to remain static? Just because as you work on them, you know, they kind of reach into different areas that you didn't actually expect. So are you planning now to change those objectives and scope, or do you think that that'll just be, those will be your objectives and scope on into the future?
I think they change in the sense of, obviously the objective would always be to continue to maintain production at a certain level, so that remains there. But you also start to incorporate other parts of the process. Like I mentioned, the inventory management, that wasn't one that we set out to do. We were more focused on making sure we don't break down, but then along the lines, we figured out we have the data, if we manage this better, and the quality of the incoming feedstock can impact the operation of the equipment. And for example, moisture. We started to understand better the incoming material moisture, because then it impacted the pressure in the machine. So we were not able to make that correlation before that, or we theoretically knew it was there, but we couldn't apply it practically. So do I think that the objective changes? Yes, because like anything else, if you're constant and you don't change, you don't continue to grow. So I think looking at those things of how you continue to look at those opportunities in the business and apply some of these things, yeah, I believe it'll change. But you also maintain some of the things you've already made improvements, and over time, if the machines or the operations or things change, you have to adapt to that. And I think that's kind of the culture of using what you have to make the best decisions. So I do anticipate that it will change this.
I appreciate you bringing out an example of a new piece of data you looked at, because I think we always surprise ourselves when we never even thought to look at something before. Do you have any other examples of data that you're looking at now that you didn't know was relevant before?
I think the incoming raw materials was probably the biggest one, is in those several variables in there. So moisture was one example, but we're in the feed industry, we look at proteins in different ways. So that was one for us that was big. I think maybe correlation between different things that maybe we knew it was there, we just didn't have a way to look at it. So maybe it wasn't necessarily that we didn't have the data or we didn't know it existed, we just didn't have the tools to help us to look at that. I guess I'm trying to think if there was another example of something that, I think this was probably the big one, was on the incoming raw materials. And there's several pieces to it.
All right. Thank you, Ellie. Wonderful, wonderful presentation.